stop there. When the mechanics tried to repair the wrecked car, it fell onto them, crushing both their legs. It was after that point, it was then sold to a new owner who parted out the pieces of the car, and the engine and drivetrain were sold to two different racers. One of the racers lost control of his car, hitting a tree, and died on impact. Oh my gosh. And then the other one was injured when his car locked up and rolled over.
Talk about bad luck.
Absolutely. And it didn't stop there. Two thieves who tried to take pieces off that car, they were both injured in the process. Now, after all this, the car was donated to a safety exhibit out of California for the Highway Patrol. And during the first showing, the exhibit caught fire. During the second, the car fell on top of a student, breaking his hip. It even managed to crush and kill the driver who was transporting the car.
Holy cow.
Now, yeah, right? Now, ironic as it may seem, after all these incidents, the car simply vanished. No one knows what happened to it or where it might be. And that still remains a mystery to this day, if you can believe that.
I do find that kind of crazy that a car just up and disappeared completely.
Yeah, that whole thing surrounding that car is nuts.
A little waggling.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, the next cursed, not really item, it is more of a human.
Oh.
Called the Iceman. And this is kind of recently, so you may recall hearing about it on TV.
Okay.
But the mummy of Otzi, a.k.a. the Iceman, was discovered in the Alps of Italy in 1991.
All right.
Now, it's believed he lived around 3000 BC, and his body was preserved by a glacier that surrounded him after he died of exposure to the elements. After he was unearthed, the people linked to his discovery began to die, more often in violent accidents. There were a total of 7 deaths. Some of these include the forensic pathologist who died in a horrific car accident on his way to give a speech about the Iceman himself.
Wow.
The mountaineer who died in an avalanche, and the hiker who discovered him and his wife died after falling off a dangerous path while on another hiking adventure.
Holy smokes. Well, that brings us kind of to some other things that are on this line, but just a little different, and that's the Maori warrior masks. Now, there's a museum in Maori, New Zealand, that warns women to stay away from several sacred Maori artifacts, especially their warrior masks. They say they could invoke a curse when they come in contact with a woman, especially an expecting mother. Unfortunate events such as miscarriages and even death have been known to occur when in contact with the cursed masks. And
pretty terrible curse, actually.
It is. And that brings us to not just masks. There's this painting, and it's the Crying Boy painting, and it was popular in the 1950s. And it was a reproduction of the Bruno Amadeus, the Crying Boy. It is believed to cause fire, thanks to an article from the tabloid The Sun from September 4th, 1985. The picture of the mournful child is said to have been the only item left untouched when this house and everything in it burnt down. A local firefighter said that there were additional fires that had taken place, and the only thing left untouched was the reproductions of these paintings, the Crying Boy. Needless to say, the popularity of this reproduced picture began to fade when the word got out on all the fires and everything burnt down. Sure. And I'll tell you what, everybody, with that, we are going to take a short break. And we'll be right back with more Ghost Talk. You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama.
This in Paranormal Talk Radio.
"23 minutes past the hour. Welcome back to Ghost Talk Radio with me as your host, Shelley Robertson, and joining me is Kristen Boyd. If you just tuned in, we invite you all to join us in chat at wbhm-db.com, where you can ask us any questions you may have. We have been discussing haunted and cursed objects. If you missed the first part of the show, no worries. You can catch the show archive on Spreaker, Google Play, and iTunes at your leisure. Now, before the break, we were discussing haunted objects, and oh my goodness, there are just tons of them. And, you know, there are many, and so that brings us to some other haunted items. This was the cursed ones we were talking about. And there are just so many haunted objects. Now, haunted objects, they absorb the energy of their previous owners. The objects can be anything that person used to use a lot or something that someone treasured personally. But the most common item found to be haunted includes like dolls, jewelry, antiques, bed frames and headboards, mirrors, clothing, especially gowns, and chairs. Now, the items absorb energy from their owners due to the people having a great deal of contact with the object. The contact with the object can also capture the image of that person, creating it to become haunted. Now, an untimely death can also give the energy to charge the object. Many of these items remain dormant until there is a change within the environment. And this usually means that either a new owner takes it to a new home, or the item may already be in a home that someone recently moved into. Now, the change in this energy can activate that object. Kristen, I know that you have a haunted object in mind for us. How about you tell us a little bit about it?
Well, I will. I'm sure many of you have heard of Robert the doll.
Oh, yes.
Well, in 1896, this doll belonged to Robert Eugene Otto from Key West, Florida. And the story goes that the doll had been given to Robert by a servant who practiced black magic and who actually greatly disliked the boys' family.
Uh-huh.
Now, Robert himself, he loved his doll. But the other servants in the house, they became a little concerned and swore that they heard phantom voices talking back to the boy when he played with his doll.
Oh, wow.
Now, neighbors have even claimed that they had seen the doll moving from window to window when the family was gone.
Now that would be super creepy.
That would be different.
Yes.
Well, Robert grew up, and he inherited the house and eventually passed in 1972, which then the home was purchased by another family.
Okay.
The new owners had a little girl, and this little girl found the doll in the attic, and she was instantly afraid of it. And she claimed that the doll was alive and wanted to kill her.
Oh, drastic.
Yes. And eventually, the doll ended up in a museum in Key West, where it actually still remains on display today.
Great.
So the visitors, they're told that they must ask permission from the doll to take pictures of it. Now, if they do not, it is said that Robert will curse them.
Wow.
In the museum itself, they display the letters from these cursed people who have written an apology to Robert for not asking permission to take his picture and asking to be released from his spell.
Wow. Wow. You know, that's just amazing, isn't it?
It is.
And there is another, let's say, a painting, and this is another cursed item, and next we're going to get to the haunted items. But this next cursed item is the Anguished Man painting. Now, there's this guy, Sean Robinson, and he had a grandmother who kept this painting hidden within her attic for 25 years before he inherited it from her. Now, his grandmother always warned him that the painting was evil, going further into explaining that the artist that created this painting used his very own blood mixed within the paint, then killed himself shortly after he completed it. Now, I think that is just kind of gruesome.
It is quite gruesome.
To make a painting out of your own blood. Now, she claimed that she heard voices and crying when the painting was on display. She also stated that she would see a shadow figure of a man in her house, which is when she decided to lock it away within the attic. Now, as soon as Sean took the painting to his home, he and his family began to experience the same types of phenomenon that his grandmother had described. So, first, his son fell down the stairs. Then his wife felt someone stroke her hair. And they were all seeing a shadow figure of a man and began hearing the sounds of someone crying. So Sean, being frightened, placed the painting within the basement, where it still resides to this day.
Now, I don't blame him. I probably would just get rid of it.
Yes. Okay, so next I'm excited. There's so many cursed items, and they're all over the world, you know.
Yes.
We have only just been able to barely scratch the surface on these, and especially when you get into some of the southern states and maybe some of the other countries, there's just a magnitude of them.